right, everybody, get your engines fired up. It's time for Lights Out, Let's Chat.
Okay, so there's no race this week, which normally means we all get a peaceful little break, right? Wrong, because Formula One looked at an off week and said, actually, let's just throw the entire rumor mill into a blender. We have Max Verstappen future rumors again. We have people asking if Red Bull is actually in trouble. We have McLaren waiting on a Mercedes engine upgrade. We have Ferrari suddenly looking dangerous again. We have Kimi Antonelli's championship lead shrinking after Silverstone. We have George Russell quietly becoming a real title threat. We have the FIA getting dragged for penalties, safety car decisions, and communication. We have F1 Academy making history at Silverstone. We have Spa coming next, which is basically one of the most dramatic tracks on the calendar. And we have a whole lot of fans on the internet acting like one Instagram post means a driver has signed a 19-year contract with another team. So today, we are doing something a little different. No race recap, no lap by lap breakdown. This is our No Race Week rumor and news episode. We are taking the top F1 and F1 Academy stories people are talking about right now, breaking down what is actually confirmed, what is rumored, what the pros and cons are, and then I'll give you my take. As always, we are taking it beginner friendly because if you are newer to F1 and you see people yelling online about contracts, exit clause, upgrades, safety car rules, power units, and FIA decisions, it can feel like you accidentally walked into a family argument at Thanksgiving. So, we are going to unpack it all together. Hey everyone, welcome back to Lights Out Let's Chat, the F1 podcast where we make F1 less intimidating, more fun, and easier to follow. I'm Michaela, and on this week's episode, Formula One is technically off. There's no Grand Prix weekend happening, but there's still a lot going on. And honestly, sometimes the off weeks are when the rumors get even louder because there is no race result to distract everyone. So, we are doing the F1 rumor mill and news roundup. But here's the rule for this episode. We are not just making stuff up. If something is confirmed, we will say it confirmed. If something is reported, we will just say reported. If something is a rumor, we will call it a rumor. And if it's just fans connecting dots on social media, we will say that too. Because F1 is dramatic enough without us inventing fake drama. Today's format is simple. We are going through 10 major stories. For each one, we are going to talk about what happened, why people care, the pro side, the con side, and then my opinion. Think of it like a group chat, but with receipts. So let's get into it. Let's start with the biggest rumor because this one refuses to die. That is right, we are going to discuss Max Verstappen's future. Now, every few weeks, the F1 internet decides Max is leaving Red Bull. Sometimes he's going to Mercedes, sometimes he's going to McLaren, sometimes Aston Martin gets mentioned. Sometimes people act like he's going to buy a farm and quit racing entirely. Max Verstappen is under contract with Red Bull through 2028. That is the confirmed part. The rumor part is that his contract reportedly includes performance related exit clauses. Those clauses have not been fully made public, so we need to be careful. We do not know the exact wording. We do not know the exact trigger, but multiple outlets and F1 insiders have discussed the idea that if Red Bull is not competitive enough, Verstappen may have options before 2028. Why is this a story now? Because Red Bull has not looked like the dominant Red Bull we used to see. Under the 2026 regulations, Mercedes has been the strongest team overall. Ferrari has had big moments, McLaren is still close. Red Bull has had flashes, especially Austria, but then Silverstone looked messy again. And when a driver like Verstappen is not constantly fighting for wins, everyone is asking the same question. How long will he stay patient? If you are Verstappen, your priority is winning, not vibes, not nostalgia, not we have a good run. Winning. If Red Bull cannot give him a title contending car, it makes sense that his team would at least look around. That does not mean he is disloyal. That means he is doing what elite athletes do. F1 careers are short, competitive windows are even shorter. So, if Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari, or even Aston Martin looked like a better long term title option, of course people would talk. Now, the con is that leaving Red Bull could be a massive risk. Max built his entire championship legacy there. He knows the team is built around him. Even in a difficult year, Red Bull still understands how he likes a car to feel. Going somewhere else means new people, new politics, new engineering style, new expectations, and possibly a car that looks good from the outside but does not suit him. Also, the grass is not always greener in F1. Just because a team is fast right now does not mean they will be fast next year. My opinion, I do not think Max is leaving just because Red Bull had a bad stretch. But I do think the rumors are real enough to take seriously. Not because there is a confirmed deal, there is not. But because Verstappen does not strike me as someone who wants to spend years dragging a car to fourth place just to be loyal. If Red Bull can fight for wins, I think he stays. If Red Bull falls behind and stays behind, I think all bets are off. And honestly, the most interesting part is not even will Mac leave. The more interesting question is would another top team be willing to blow up its current driver lineup for him? Because that's where things get spicy. Now, let's talk specifically about the McLaren rumor, because this one got loud. The basic rumor is that Verstappen could somehow end up at McLaren if something changed with Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri. Some reports and fan discussions have connected Verstappen to McLaren because McLaren has been strong in recent seasons, has a good car, and is still expected to improve. But McLaren CEO Zak Brown basically shut that down publicly by making a joke that Verstappen could only have a seat if one of the McLaren drivers slipped on a banana peel, which is very Zak. Basically, McLaren likes Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. From a purely dramatic standpoint, Verstappen at McLaren would be insane. Imagine Max Verstappen in Papaya. Imagine the fans' reaction. Imagine the Netflix episode. Imagine Lando, Oscar, and Max all being discussed in the same driver market story. It would break the internet. And if you were McLaren, having Verstappen available would at least make you think. Any team would think. He is one of the best drivers in the world. You do not ignore that. The con is that McLaren already has a really strong driver pairing. Lando Norris is popular, fast, experienced, and deeply connected to the team. Oscar Piastri is calm, precise, and still developing into a top level driver. Why would McLaren create chaos unless they absolutely had to? Bringing in Verstappen would change the entire team dynamic overnight. It would create pressure, it would create media attention, it would make one of their current drivers leave. And if you already have two excellent drivers, sometimes the smartest thing is not to chase the biggest name. Sometimes the smartest thing is stability. Now, my take Verstappen and McLaren is fun for the internet, but I do not see it as the most likely move right now. Could McLaren be interested if everything lined up perfectly? Sure, absolutely. Any team would be. But I believe McLaren when they say they are committed to Lando and Oscar. Also, as a McLaren fan, I do not want unnecessary chaos. I want upgrades. I want race wins. I want the team to stop being almost there. I do not need the paddock equivalent of throwing a grenade into the driver room. So for now, I put Verstappen to McLaren in the category of very clickable, very dramatic, not impossible, but not something I would bet my coffee money on. Now, this one is not just a rumor. McLaren has been waiting on the latest Mercedes engine upgrade, and that matters. For my beginners, McLaren uses Mercedes power units, but they are not the Mercedes factory team. Mercedes has its own works team, and it also supplies engine to custom teams. In 2026, the power unit rules changed, and engine performance is a huge part of the championship picture. So, if Mercedes has an upgraded engine package and McLaren has not had access to it yet, that could affect performance. Zach Brown has said McLaren is waiting for the next step and that it could help them later in the season. This is a big deal because McLaren has been close, but not quite winning enough. They have good pace, they have good drivers, they are scoring points, but they have not consistently had the last little piece needed to beat Mercedes, Ferrari, and sometimes Red Bull. The pro is obvious. More power or better deployment could help McLaren close the gap. At tracks like Spa, Monza, or anywhere with long straights, a stronger power unit matters. It could help overtaking, it could help qualifying, it could help race pace. And for Lando and Oscar, even a small gain could be huge. In modern F1, 2/10 can change everything. 2/10 can be the difference between starting 7th and starting 3rd. The con is that an engine upgrade will not magically solve every issue. McLaren also needs drivability. They need tire management, they need setup consistency, they need clean weekends. If the car is difficult to drive, more power does not automatically make it better. Sometimes more power just means you get to arrive at your problems faster. Also, the factory Mercedes team is still the benchmark with that power unit. McLaren has to integrate the engine into its own chassis, cooling package, and energy management systems. So, yes, an upgrade helps, but it is not a fairy godmother. My take, McLaren needs this upgrade badly. It cannot be the whole plan. As a McLaren fan, I want to believe this is the missing piece. I want to say, give us the Mercedes upgrade, and suddenly we are winning races. But I think the truth is more realistic. It might help them get closer, it might help them fight for podiums more often, it might help at Spa. But McLaren still needs to execute better across the whole weekend. Practice pace is cute, podiums are nice, but if they want to be in the championship conversation, they need wins, not just good points, actual wins. Now let's talk about Kimi Antonelli, because this season has been wild for him. He came into Silverstone with a 40-point lead over George Russell. He left with a 25-point lead. That is still a lead, but it feels very different. At Silverstone, Antonelli had a dream Saturday. He won the sprint, he took Grand Prix pole. It looked like another weekend where everyone would say, okay, this rookie is not normal. But then Sunday happened. He lost the lead at the start, he fought back, he looked like he had the pace to challenge Leclerc. Then the car developed damage around the left front area, and he said the car was not turning properly. Mercedes had to pit him multiple times. He eventually finished 16th and scored no Grand Prix points. That is brutal. The pro is that Antonelli is still leading the championship. That matters. One bad Sunday does not erase the season he has had. He has wins, he has poles, he has a sprint race win. He has shown speed, racecraft, and maturity way beyond what people expect from a rookie. And honestly, the Silverstone issue was not just him throwing the race away. The car had problems. That's what matters. The con is that now Russell is closer. 25 points sound like a lot until you remember that one Grand Prix win is 25 points. One more bad weekend and suddenly this championship gets tight. Also, when you're the young driver leading the championship, everyone is watching how you respond. Does he shake it off? Does he tighten up? Does he start over driving? Does Mercedes start feeling pressure inside the team? That is the test. My take, I still think Antonelli is the championship favorite right now, but Silverstone made him look human, and honestly, that might be good for the story. Not good for him, obviously, but good for the season. Because if he just ran away with the championship, that would get boring. Now we have tension. Russell's right there. Ferrari is taking wins. McLaren is trying to get stronger. Verstappen is still lurking. So, yes, Antonelli is still the driver everyone is chasing. But now he has to prove he can handle being chased. And that is a very different kind of pressure. George Russell finished second at Silverstone. That sounds good. But after the race, he was pretty honest that he was not fully satisfied with the weekend. And I actually love that because it tells us something. Russell is not just happy to be on the podium, he sees the championship. He sees Antonelli ahead of him. He sees a Mercedes giving him a car that can fight. And he knows second place is good, but it is not enough if he wants to win the title. Now, for my beginners, in F1, sometimes a podium can be a great result. But if your teammate is leading the championship and your team has the fastest qualifying car, second can feel like a missed opportunity. That is where Russell is right now. He has to keep scoring, but he also needs wins. The pro is that Russell is consistent. He is fast, he is experienced, and after Silverstone, he closed the gap to Antonelli. He also won in Austria, so this is not just Russell is hanging around. He is in the fight. If Antonelli has more reliability issues, Russell could be right there. The con is that Russell needs clean, dominated weekends too. He can not only gain ground when Antonelli has damage or when strategy falls his way. If he wants to be his teammate straight up, he needs more weekends like Austria. Pull, control, win. That is how he changes the story. My take, George Russell is becoming the quiet danger in the championship. Everyone talks about Antonelli because the rookie storyline is insane. Everyone talks about Hamilton because Ferrari is Ferrari. Everyone talks about Verstappen because he is Verstappen. But Russell is sitting there collecting points, winning races, and getting closer. I do not think he is the flashiest storyline, but I think he might be one of the most important. And if Antonelli has one more rough race, we're going to stop saying Antonelli's championship and start saying Mercedes' Civil War. And I'll be watching with a bowl of popcorn. Now, Ferrari. This team is exhausting in the most Ferrari way possible. Barcelona, Hamilton wins. Austria, Ferrari starts second and third and then falls backward. Silverstone, Leclerc wins. Hamilton finishes third. Ferrari takes its 250th Grand Prix victory. So, are they back? Maybe? Kind of? Ask me again in 3 races. The good news for Ferrari is that the speed is clearly real. Hamilton has won for Ferrari. Leclerc has now won at Silverstone. They have qualifying pace. They have race pace on certain circuits. And they are starting to look like they can actually pressure Mercedes. The pro is that Ferrari now has 2 proven race winning options. Hamilton is comfortable enough to win in red. Leclerc has rediscovered confidence and took a huge victory at Silverstone. That is dangerous. If both drivers are on form, Ferrari can split strategies, pressure Mercedes, and steal wins. Also, Ferrari momentum is different from normal team momentum. When Ferrari starts winning, the whole sport feels it. The con is that Ferrari still feels unpredictable. One weekend they look like a title threat, the next strategy or tire wear makes them look lost. That is not enough for a championship. Ferrari cannot live on emotional wins. They need repeatable weekends. They need to stop being the team where fans say, please don't mess this up. Please don't mess this up every time the pit wall appears on the screen. My personal take, Ferrari's not fully back until they can be good 3 weekends in a row. But I do think Ferrari is real now. They are no longer just maybe if everything goes perfectly, they can win races. Hamilton and Leclerc both have proof. And if Ferrari can clean up the inconsistency, they could absolutely become Mercedes' biggest problem. But I refuse to fully trust Ferrari yet. I have learned Ferrari gives you hope, then immediately makes you question your life choices. So my official stance is Ferrari is back enough to scare people, not back enough for me to relax. Now let's talk about the FIA because after Silverstone, a lot of people were talking about race control, penalty, track limits, and the safety car finish. And honestly, this is not what you want after a great race. We want people talking about Leclerc's win, Hamilton's podium, Russell's title push, and Antonelli's heartbreak. Instead, a conversation became why did the race end behind the safety car? Why did Antonelli get a track limit penalty when the car was broken? Why was Sainz given a rare penalty lap after the race? Why does it feel like the FIA explains things after fans are already angry? For my beginners, the FIA is the governing body. They make and enforce the rules. Race control manages the live race. The stewards review incidents and decide penalties. So when fans say the FIA, they are often talking about the system that controls race procedures and penalties. The pro FIA side is that rules have to exist. You cannot let drivers ignore track limits. You cannot restart a race until the track is safe. You cannot just decide penalties based on vibes. F1 is already complicated. Without rules, it would be chaos. Also, sometimes fans only see the TV broadcast. Race control may have information we do not see. So, yes, it is easy to criticize from the couch. The con is that the FIA often does a poor job explaining decisions in a way fans understand. If the safety car has to stay put out, explain why. If a driver gets a track limits penalty while driving a damaged car, explain whether that damage was considered. If a rare penalty is issued, explain it clearly. Because when expectations are slow, vague, or buried in documents, fans fill the gap with anger. And honestly, sometimes the anger is understandable. My take, I am not anti rule, I am not anti confusion. The FIA needs to communicate better, especially in a sport that is trying to bring in new fans. If you were a new fan, Silverstone was confusing. You saw Verstappen crash, you saw the safety car, you saw the car appear to be cleared, then the race just ended. Then you saw penalties after the race, then you saw people arguing online. That's not beginner friendly, if you ask me. The FIA does not need to make every decision popular, but it doesn't need to make decisions understandable. Because if fans cannot understand why something is happening, they are going to assume the worst, and that is bad for the sport. This one is important. F1 Academy at Silverstone gave us a great story. Alicia Palmowski won at home. Kiara batting a wildcard driver took pole and then finished second in the feature race. That made batting the first wildcard driver in F1 Academy history to stand on the podium. Emma Flebemeyer also had a strong weekend, winning the reverse grid and finishing third in the future race. This is exactly the kind of story F1 should be pushing harder, because it's not just women racing, it's good racing. It is young drivers under pressure. It is home crowd emotion. It is a wildcard driver shocking the field. It is a championship leader delivering when everyone expects her to. The pro is that F1 Academy gives fans a way to follow young female drivers before they reach higher levels. That matters. If we want more women in motorsports, visibility matters. Storytelling matters. broadcasting matters. Fans need to learn the names, they need to understand the rivalries, they need to see the talent. Palmowski winning at home is a storyline. Batting making history is a storyline. Flebbemeyer having a complete weekend is a storyline. The con is that F1 Academy still does not get enough attention compared to Formula One, and a lot of fans only hear about it if something dramatic happens. That is the problem, because if the goal is to grow female participation in motorsports, these drivers need consistent coverage, not just occasional applause. Also, F1 Academy needs to be present in a way that feels serious, not like a side quest. These drivers are competing, they are not just inspiring. They are racers. My take, this is exactly the kind of thing I want more people to watch, especially women who are newer to Formula One and maybe feel like the sport was not built for them. F1 Academy gives you names to follow early. You get to learn the drivers, watch them grow, and be a part of the story before anyone else catches on. And I love the batting story because it proves opportunity matters. She got the wild card seat. She made the most of it. That is what you want to see. So yes, I want more F1 Academy talk. Not as a charity segment, not as, oh, women are racing. No, as racing, as a competition, as part of Motorsport Ladder. And honestly, if you are looking for a place to start watching and learning racecraft without feeling overwhelmed, F1 Academy is a great entry point. The next race is the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa, July 17th through July 19th. Spa is one of the most famous circuits in Formula One, and it is also one of the most intimidating. For my beginners, Spa is long, fast, historic, and unpredictable. It also has weather that can be completely different in different parts of the circuit because the track is so long. It can be dry in one sector and wet in another. So Spa creates chaos. This year, it is especially interesting because of where the championship is. Antonelli is trying to bounce back after Silverstone. Russell is closing in, Ferrari has momentum, McLaren is waiting for more performance. Red Bull needs to prove Austria was not a one off. And Verstappen usually loves Spa. The pro is that Spa usually gives us overtaking chances, strategy options, weather drama, and high speed commitment. It is not like Monaco, where everyone just gets stuck in a fancy traffic jam. Spa gives drivers room to fight, and with the current form from Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, and McLaren, that could be amazing. The con is that Spa is unpredictable. Weather can turn everything upside down. Safety cars are always possible. Strategy can become a guessing game, and because the speeds are so high, mistakes can be costly. It is one of those weekends where confidence matters, but so does patience. My take, Spa is exactly what the season needs right now. We have tension everywhere. Antonelli versus Russell. Ferrari trying to prove it is real. Verstappen trying to prove Red Bull still has life. McLaren trying to stop being almost good enough. And the FIA probably hoping nobody asks them another safety car question. Spa could make everything messier, and I mean that as a compliment. This might be the biggest picture story. At the beginning of the season, it felt like Mercedes was the clear team to beat. Antonelli was winning, Russell was fast, Mercedes kept taking poles. But now, Ferrari has won with Hamilton and Leclerc. Red Bull looked better in Austria, even if Silverstone was rough. McLaren is waiting on upgrades and still scoring. Mercedes is still leading, but not untouched. So, this is becoming a four-team fight. Maybe. And that is great for fans. The pro is obvious. Nobody wants one team to dominate forever, unless it is your favorite team. And even then, be honest, it gets a little boring. When multiple teams can win, every weekend feels important. Strategy matters more, qualifying matters more, driver mistakes matter more, and fans from different teams all stay invested. That is good for the sport. The con is that Mercedes still looks like the most completed team. They have the strongest qualifying record. They have two drivers in the title fight. They have won a lot. Even when things go wrong, they still score big with one car. Ferrari's inconsistent. McLaren is not winning enough. Red Bull is unpredictable. So, yes, it feels closer, but Mercedes is still in the best position. My take, I think it is not fully a four-team fight yet, but it is becoming a four-team problem, and that is different. Mercedes is still the favorite, Ferrari can win, Red Bull can disrupt, McLaren can steal podiums and maybe wins if the upgrade works. That means nobody gets to relax. And that is what I want. I want teams nervous. I want strategy calls to matter. I want drivers under pressure. I want fans arguing in the comments. Okay, mostly respectfully. This season is not settled. And for a no race weekend, that is exactly why we still have so much to talk about. This week's question of the week is, which F1 storyline do you think could change the rest of the 2026 season the most? Is it Max Verstappen's future rumors, McLaren waiting on the Mercedes engine upgrade, Ferrari suddenly winning again, Antonelli championship lead shrinking, Russell becoming a real title threat, the FIA's decision making and race control controversy, F1 Academy gaining momentum, or Spa possibly shaking everything up next? My answer, I think the biggest storyline is McLaren's engine upgrade. And I know that might sound less dramatic than Verstappen leaving Red Bull or Ferrari winning again. But hear me out. Verstappen rumors are exciting, but they are still rumors. Ferrari wins are huge, but Ferrari still needs consistency. Antonelli and Russell are already in the fight. The FIA drama matters, but it does not directly make a car faster. McLaren getting the Mercedes upgrade could actually change the competitive order. If McLaren gets more power, better deployment, or just cleaner package, that could turn them from good points team into actual win threats. And if McLaren starts winning, then the whole championship changes because suddenly Mercedes has to fight its own customer team. Ferrari has another threat. Red Bull has less room to recover, and Lando and Oscar both become much bigger problems. So my pick is McLaren, not because it's the loudest story, because it might be the sneakiest. Now I want to know what you think. Which storyline are you watching the closest? Max future, Ferrari's comeback, McLaren's upgrade, Antonelli versus Russell, or are you just here for Spa chaos? Drop your answers in the comments or send us a message. This week was technically an off week, but Formula One is never really quiet. The race cars may not be on the track, but the stories are still moving. And what I love about this point in the season is that we do not have one clean answer yet. Mercedes looks strong but not perfect. Antonelli leads, but Russell is closing. Ferrari can win, but consistency is still a question. McLaren is close but still waiting for the next step. Red Bull is not done, but is not comfortable either. Verstappen's future is still the rumor that refuses to leave the group chat. F1 Academy is giving us real storylines that deserve more attention. And the FIA needs to remember that new fans are watching, confused, and trying to understand what is going on. That matters because F1 is growing. More women are watching. More beginner fans are coming in through TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, podcast, and social media. And if we want those fans to stay, we need to make the sport easier to understand. without making them feel dumb for asking questions. That is why we do this podcast. You do not have to know every regulation. You do not have to understand every contact rumor. You do not have to understand every contract rumor. You do not have to know what every button on the steering wheel does. You can learn as you go, and honestly, even longtime fans are confused half the time. So, if you are new here, welcome. You picked a chaotic season, but that is kind of the fun part. That is it for this week's episode of Lights Out, Let's Chat. Our no race week rumor and news roundup. We talked Verstappen rumors, McLaren upgrades, Ferrari momentum, Antonelli's shrinking championship lead, Russell's title push, FIA drama, F1 Academy, Spa, and whether this season is becoming a four-team fight. Make sure you answer the question of the week: which storyline could change the rest of the 2026 F1 season the most? And if you're enjoying the podcast, please follow, subscribe, leave a review, share it with a friend, or send it to someone who is trying to understand Formula One but does not want to be yelled at by gatekeeping. Next week, we head to Spa for the Belgian Grand Prix. And if this season has taught us anything, it is that predicting what happens next is a terrible idea. But we are going to do it anyway. Until next time, lights out, let's chat.
From lights out to the checkered flag, this has been Lights Out, Let's Chat podcast. We'll see you next time.